What's up, fellow outdoor lovers? It's been a while since I've shared on the channel, but I have something that I've been thinking about that could help you in your journey if you've had a problem with this, and that is plantar fasciitis. I'm making this video, and the reason that I am qualified to talk to you about this is because, one, I have personally dealt with this issue, and two, I actually am a healthcare professional. But this video is not healthcare advice or medical advice, but I'm going to tell you my story and a lot of the mistakes that I made and recommendations that I can give since I have been through this personally. So I'm going to give you some nuggets as I go through this, and I hope it's helpful, and maybe you'll be able to benefit from it if you have this problem. A lot of people get told that plantar fasciitis comes from being overweight, but that's not true. Plantar fasciitis mostly comes from mechanical issues and overuse injuries. So a lot of runners develop this, a lot of people who wear the improper footwear, and that's what leads to this problem over time. So I was working 12-hour shifts in my job. I was also running quite a bit. I was also going back to school and getting my master's degree, and since I was in healthcare, I was doing clinicals, so I was standing all the time, and a lot of times I was having to wear dress shoes and inappropriate footwear for being on your feet all the time. So because of the hours that I was working, I was on my feet a lot, and I have this distinct memory of coming home from working a 12-hour shift, and I had been sitting on the couch for about 10 minutes, and I felt my foot start hurting. And I had been having problems with it. I had kind of been ignoring it, not really doing anything about it. And this particular time, all of a sudden, it started to feel like somebody took a branding iron and stuck it into my heel. It was absolutely killing me. And so at that point, I decided that I had to do something. So like everybody else, when they have a question, I started reading articles online. I started watching YouTube videos, and there is so much information out there, and there are a lot of people that can steer you the wrong way. So that's why I'm making this video, because I don't want people to make the same mistakes that I made. And I wasted a lot of time and money and pain on this problem, and I want to save you time and money and pain. So I started icing my feet, and I started buying insoles. And so I was maybe doing some stretching and icing, and I was rolling my foot on a ball at night, and all these things that you read that you can do. And I would start to get some relief every time I would do something new. And so I started with these insoles, buying different insoles, and I would get a little relief for a while, and then I would go buy some different insoles. And every time I thought that I had made a right move and that things were getting better, then I would start having problems again. So then what do people always tell you to do? They say, well, you need more supportive shoes. You need better shoes. You need more cushion. So I started going and buying more and more expensive, more cushiony shoes. And every time I would buy a new pair of shoes, things would get better for a little while, and then it would come back again. So definitely don't keep wasting money on shoes. But the other problem with shoes is that most standard shoes nowadays are not the appropriate foot shape. And whenever you add cushion, you also increase the problem that is contributing to plantar fasciitis. And I'll show you what I mean. So the first thing that you need to do is start wearing wider toe box shoes. Right now, I am wearing these Zero shoes, and I do not actually consider these wide toe box. I'll show you what I mean by that. A lot of the time, I wear toe spreaders so that I can train the intrinsic muscles of my foot to get stronger and maintain the appropriate tripod position of the foot so that your foot can splay out almost like your hand. Well, I wear these toe spreaders, and as you can see, this completely fills up this shoe. The toe spreaders that I'm wearing right now are actually very moderate toe spreaders. So I have other toe spreaders that are quite a bit wider than this. It gives me a full toe splay. But these are still barefoot shoes, and they don't have a lot of cushion. They don't have any arch support whatsoever. So you really want to be able to maintain this splayed toe position, because you want this hallux joint to stay in appropriate alignment. And this is what keeps your arch formed up off the ground. Whenever you wear a narrow toe box shoe, you crimp your toes together like this. And so this is why you get a bunion, because your hallux is pushing out this way while your toe is being pushed in this way. And this causes your arch to collapse and flatten out. And that is what starts to put stress on this band of fascia that runs across the bottom of your foot. And this is what begins to tear the fascia and cause inflammation and injury. And so why does a cushiony shoe contribute to this and also increase the risk of plantar fasciitis? Because the cushion on the bottom of your shoe is also like stepping on a pillow. So what happens whenever you step on a pillow? Well, instead of having a nice hard surface to be able to press into and the intrinsic foot muscles, your toes can spread out and press into the ground, you have this fluffy thing that's pushing your toes up like this because your foot is sinking down into it. And so now it's stretching out the fascia running across the bottom of your foot even more, because the foot muscles are having to work even harder to maintain the appropriate arch as you're standing and walking. So this actually puts more strain and more stress on the fascia over time, even though it feels good when you first put the shoe on. I'm not saying that you need completely zero cushion. If you work on concrete floors, a little bit of a thin layer of cushion in there can be helpful, especially if it's something that's pretty springy, that maintains its shape. But it doesn't need to be like memory foam or high cushion, because that just sinks down as your foot compresses it, and then you don't have a good surface to maintain your arch and push off of. What's up, little duckies? Alright, so next in my story, I was buying all the wrong shoes. I kept buying more and more insoles, more and more cushy shoes, and I would get a little better and then it would come right back. And so someone very well-meaning, trying to help me, encouraged me to get custom insoles. And so I spent hundreds of dollars, almost $1,000 on custom insoles with a chiropractor who specifically formed these things for my feet. They were very rigid, and they were supposed to help hold your arch in the appropriate foot position. And so I started wearing these insoles in my shoes all the time. I was wearing them to work constantly. And here's the one good thing that I will say about the insoles. They did help get me through the acute inflammatory phase of the plantar fasciitis. And I still would not encourage anyone to get these custom insoles unless you absolutely 100% have no other choice and you have some sort of medical condition that does not allow your foot to have normal mechanics. But if you do not have some sort of previous injury or congenital abnormality or something that is specifically limiting your physiologic ability to develop the intrinsic muscles in your feet, then I actually would not recommend custom insoles. And the reason that I would not recommend them is because they weaken your feet. So even though I got through the acute phase, we as a family made a big life change and we moved overseas. And I was going to be working in Asia in healthcare, and in the facility that I was working in, you were not allowed to wear your own shoes in the facility. And so you're going into this facility wearing some sort of, cheap rubber sandals or whatever that you're provided to wear while you're in there. This is very common in Asia, that you don't wear your shoes inside people's homes or inside certain business places. And so there I was, constantly barefooted on tile floors. And this is like the worst thing for plantar fasciitis in the world. And so I came to a point where I was trying to run with these insoles in, and I was killing my feet because the insoles were rubbing blisters on the bottom of my feet. You're jamming this rigid arch into the bottom of your foot while you're trying to run. And your foot loses its kinetic energy because you don't have the spring off and the recoil that you need from your foot for running. So basically, I've got this paddle strapped to the bottom of my foot. I was not hiking anymore. I was not backpacking. I had to completely quit running. And that was miserable for me because I loved all that stuff. So here I am in Asia, and I'm like, I can't live in this culture and do the stuff that I'm supposed to be able to do completely dependent on these insoles. And so I decided that I was going to stop using them, and I was going to get over this, and I was going to figure it out. And I started doing all these foot strengthening exercises, and I was trying to stay barefoot as much as possible. And I was using bands, doing strength exercises with bands. But I also still had not fixed the issue of the shoes that I was wearing. So I didn't really have any wide toe box barefoot style shoes. Well, we had a family crisis, and we had to come back to the United States. We had to leave our mission there. And that's a whole nother story in and of itself. But after I was back in the US, I was still wearing regular tennis shoes, and I started working in healthcare again, working 12-hour shifts. And I thought that the foot strengthening exercises has gotten me better, but then it started to come back again because I hadn't addressed the footwear. So I finally just decided, heck, you know what? I'm going to get some wide toe box shoes. I'm going to see if this helps. And I started doing that. And another thing that I discovered was a gua sha knife. So it's Guasha, I believe. It's basically a smooth silver S-shaped. You can get them in different shapes. But it's a metal blade that you use oil with, and you scrape your plantar fascia with it. Now, I'm going to divert from the story here for a minute and explain this, because this is a very important part of plantar fasciitis. So let me explain part of the physiology of plantar fasciitis here. I've already told you about the improper foot mechanics. But what happens with the actual fascia itself is it's connecting these from your toes all the way to your heel. And it splays out through the bottom of your foot towards your toes from your heel like this, kind of like your hand. And this fascia is not super well vascularized. There's not a lot of blood flow to it. And so whenever it gets damaged from these poor foot mechanics, it then tries to re-heal itself. And the fascia gets, it's nice and straight, and it slides like it's supposed to, but then it gets ripped apart, and then it tries to come together and heal. And so you're laying there at nighttime, your foot's in a relaxed position, and you're trying to heal. Then you stand up in the morning, and those knits have formed like this, and then when you stand on it, it stretches and it rips them back apart. And that's why you have this excruciating pain that shoots through your foot in the morning whenever you stand up. So if you're experiencing that, that is plantar fasciitis. Now, as you go through different phases of plantar fasciitis, this pain can actually move more from the heel and into the middle of your foot through the fascia, as different parts of it are injured and strained. But basically, this is this mechanism of tearing and rehealing and tearing and rehealing. And some people actually wear foot splints at night. I actually did this for a couple of years, where I wore a splint that kept my foot straight at nighttime. And as the fascia heals, it's already kind of in a more stretched position, so it's kind of helped it, not be so tight. And then when you stand, it can't, rip back apart as much because it's already healed in a stretched position. So that's one theory. I think it does help to some extent. And if you are in the acute phase of plantar fasciitis, I think that you should consider wearing foot splints if you think that you can sleep with them. I do think that they helped me, but I do not wear them anymore. So back to the gua sha knife. Whenever you have this blade and you're scraping the bottom of your plantar fascia, you're actually breaking up those adhesions that form in the fascia. And whenever you break them up, they can get more blood flow to them from scraping them with that thing. And as that blood flow increases in the area, it begins to bring vital nutrients into it, and it begins to heal where those adhesions are at. And as you break them up more and more, and you keep strengthening your feet, the fascia starts to heal back in the appropriate alignment, and you can start to get true freedom from this thing. So the next thing that I did in my journey was I started buying toe spreaders. And you do not wear toe spreaders at nighttime. I thought this was just like a passive thing where you just like wore these things on your toes and it helped spread your toes out like while you were sleeping. Don't do that, it hurts. You need to wear toe spreaders while you're being active. These are designed to strengthen the intrinsic foot muscles, and the only way you're going to do that is by spreading your toes apart in that appropriate alignment while you're walking, while you're running, while you're doing load-bearing exercises. And there's a lot of people on YouTube and different, various blogs and things teaching you really great exercises that you can do for strengthening your glutes, strengthening your calves, and strengthening the intrinsic muscles of your feet. So I'm not going to get into all that in this video because this video is already getting pretty long. But what you want to do is get through that initial acute phase, and I'll tell you more about how I do that. And then you need to strengthen your foot muscles. So I went from not being able to run at all, not being able to go backpacking and do the things that I love, to now I'm going backpacking again. I can run. I do not run as much as I used to, if I'm being completely honest. My feet are still not to the point where I would go run a marathon right now. But the fact that I can go run, I can run full sprints, and I do not wake up the next morning with any pain is absolutely incredible and life-changing. So that's kind of the point that I'm at now in my journey. I've gotten back to doing a lot of the things that I enjoy, and my foot muscles are much stronger. I can wear barefoot shoes 24/7. I can wear toe spreaders, and I do not wake up in the morning with pain anymore. My feet are getting significantly stronger, and I can tell that in my gait, in my running, that I'm getting my intrinsic foot muscles back. So now I want to share with you kind of what the things that I would do through the different phases. So first off, if you are in that acute inflammatory phase, you need to rest. You need to stop running, and you need to stop doing the things that are inflaming the fascia. You do need to go ahead and get wide toe box shoes and start getting something that allows your toes to splay out whenever you're walking. If you're having acute pain after you've been working or something, you need to come home and you need to do your stretches. So there's all kinds of different stretches that you can do. You need to do calf stretches. You need to work your knuckles in between your toes. You need to rotate your foot around in a big circle in both directions. You need to push back. You need to pull side to side and start getting all those muscles loosened up in there. You need to massage the bottom of your foot all the way down from your heel, splay out through your toes with your thumbs. I would consider going ahead and getting a gua sha knife. If your foot is really inflamed, this is going to hurt quite badly, so I would start very light with that and not go too hard. But the first thing that I would probably do is see like a naturopathic doctor with a chiropractor that's associated with that office. I never did physical therapy, and I really wish that I would have focused on that early on, because I think I did a lot of damage to my feet trying to do this on my own, trying to avoid spending money. But then I kept buying shoes and insoles and all this stuff, and I was wasting money over here, and I was kind of blind to the fact that I was wasting hundreds of dollars when I should have been spending money on physical therapy and strengthening my feet appropriately. So I would consider doing that. And then I would go ahead, get the wide toe box shoes. I would not start wearing toe spreaders yet, but focus on stretching your feet. getting that inflammation down. You could consider getting some sort of red light warming pad, something that would apply red light and warmth to the bottom of your foot that's going to increase warmth and blood flow to the area, and then do your stretches at night. Consider getting foot splints to hold your foot in a straight position while you're sleeping so that that healing can happen in a stretched position. And then once you start getting through that acute phase and you're not having as much pain, then I would start adding in the gua sha knife more. Then I would start adding in strengthening exercises. One of the things that I love to do is press my foot into the floor and dome, where you pull your arch back like this, where you're reaching with your toes. Don't curl your toes, keep them straight, and press into the floor and pull that arch up. And you will feel the muscles in your arch working to pull that arch up. And that's really going to help start strengthening those intrinsic muscles in your feet. Then start doing that with your toe spreaders on, and then start doing that on one foot. Then start adding weight to your body on one foot. This is all going to increase your balance and the intrinsic foot muscle strength that you need to get over this issue. The other thing that you need to do is you need to make this a lifestyle habit. So don't just try to do like some exercises when you get home from work and think that this is going to get better. You've got to start wearing the appropriate shoes. You've got to start strengthening your feet while you're walking, while you're working, while you're doing your everyday life, because otherwise you're not going to get over this. It's going to keep coming back and keep coming back. So you got to break up that inflammation. You got to increase the blood flow. You got to increase the strength. And there are plenty of shoemakers out there nowadays that make wide toe box shoes. They don't all have to be barefoot style. You can get some that have more sole to them. Limbs makes some nice dress shoes that have a wide toe box but still have a good sole, and they look nice. Leather shoes, I wear them with dress clothes all the time, and this is going to help you extremely on your journey. Well, listen, I've already gotten this video longer than I intended. I really wanted to cover some more of the specific exercises and things that I did. If that's something that you think would be helpful for you, then I will make a video. If you ask, leave a comment. There are a lot of videos on this kind of stuff and people who have even more experience with it than I do. But I wanted to tell you my story. And the reason I wanted to do that is because I think a lot of people share the struggle that I have had, and they keep wasting money and time and pain on things that don't work. And I think I wasted a lot of years and actually caused more injury to my feet. I probably could be in a better position right now if I had learned a lot of this stuff earlier and if I had gotten some therapy earlier. But I'm telling you now, so if you're having this problem, you can start to correct it, start to get the appropriate footwear, start to strengthen your feet. Don't waste your money on insoles, don't waste your money on expensive shoes, and go ahead and get barefoot shoes. Get the strength going in your feet, get the blood flow going in your feet, and I hope this helps. Get out there, hike, enjoy the beautiful outdoor weather this spring, and let me know if I can help you with anything else. Have a great day.